Hi, I'm Steven, and this is COPING-20. Hey, Steven here. We are back with COPING-20 once again. We are at the end of the month of June. I know it's been a while since we've done an episode, but we have a great one for you. We have a big guest on today, and this episode is going to have two purposes. It's going to be looking at where we are in the state of Illinois right now, where we are with COVID-19. Obviously, we are recently now in phase 5, which is very, very good news for all of us. But this episode is also going to give you a unique perspective on the guest that we have today and what it is like and what it's been like for her and people like her that do a lot of work behind the scenes to make our lives better and to pass important legislation. My guest today is Representative Barbara Hernandez from Illinois. Representative, how are you doing today? And thank you so much for joining our show.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on your show today.
Thank you, thank you. So please tell everybody a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and tell us how you got started in politics for the state of Illinois.
Of course. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Barbara Hernandez. I'm the state representative of the 83rd District. I cover areas of Aurora and North Aurora currently, the second largest city outside of Chicago. So I'm really excited to be able to represent that area. How I started was honestly when I was 14. I started to volunteer in different activities, different community events, registering people to vote, knocking on doors, going to protest, and so on. And that happened because I was really passionate about immigration reform. My family was undocumented for 21 years. So immigration reform was the path that I wanted to go to, as I felt that that would solve my parents' and other families' issues when it came to immigration. Unfortunately, of course, we still have immigration issues in the country. However, that opened the doors for a lot of different opportunities to learn more about stuff besides immigration. So I was able to learn about property taxes, about education, healthcare, and different topics that are really important to our community. But that just started when I was really young. I started to get more involved and eventually run for office. I ran for office when I was 19 for precinct committeeman, and I won. And then when I was 20 years old, 21, I was able to run for township trustee. I lost by 10 votes. So every vote does count. And I'm a testament of that because I lost by 10 votes. If I would have knocked on 11 doors, 12 doors, I would have maybe got the extra votes that I needed. However, it was a learning experience that I really appreciate. And it got me ready for my other election when I was 23 in King County Board. And at 23, I did win my election and I was able to be on the county board. And then a few years later, I did get appointed to where I am now as a state representative. I am one of the youngest state representatives. I got appointed when I was 26. Now I'm 28. So I'm really excited to just be able to serve the community, serve the individuals of the state of Illinois and continue doing the great work for the people.
That's excellent. You and I are the same age, so I really appreciate both the story you shared and how it connects to, because I got started in my career pretty early, pretty aggressively as well. And I really appreciate what you're sharing, not just from a political standpoint, from making a difference in your community, but also in terms of how to, go through self-improvement and how to really get started young and keep pushing until you get to where you want to be. And I know that you continue to do that every single day. And I really appreciate you sharing that story. So I want you to give everyone a sense of the difficulties as well as the sudden differences that took place over the last half a year and a half, 18 months, et cetera, due to COVID-19. And what really is the day in the life of a state representative, specifically in terms of how it changes during what first was considered a public health emergency and then a pandemic? And more specifically, what are some of the challenges that you faced along the way between 2020 and the start of 2021?
Of course. A lot of things change, as we know, but I think we didn't know how it was going to change until it happened. during that time. When I found out, I heard in the radio the governor was going to shut down businesses and close them for a few weeks. At that time, we thought it was going to be a few weeks, maybe a few, not even close to a month. I think that was not something we were expecting. That day, I parked my car on the side of the road, started calling all the small businesses in the area, in my district that I could, and letting them know about this news, trying to get their information, trying to get their email, their contact information, just so I can start building a list of giving people that information that was really important, that I unfortunately also didn't know during that time, because I don't think nobody knew. This was the first time ever of like shut down everything. By tonight at 8 o'clock, your business has to be closed. That's all I remember. And it was scary. It was very, everything had to be quick. We had to act quickly on everything, making sure we got all the information correct and everything, all the questions that the businesses had. The governor had several weekly, sometimes daily updates for legislators on certain things. I know for a good chunk of time, he was reporting daily to everybody, to the public, in a press conference, and just letting them know about what's going on and how many people have been dying, what's the news that he's been receiving, and so on, and then building up from there. So there was a lot of things that happened in such a short time. Honestly, I think those were the days that I was mostly stressed with everything going on, because before COVID, we had a calendar, we had strategies, we had everything we knew was coming up, we were prepared for. So yes, I would be tired, I'd be exhausted towards the end of that time frame, but I knew it was coming. With COVID, it was up in the air. We didn't know what was coming. We didn't know if we had to change certain things, if it was going to get worse, if it's going to get better. I think we all thought it was just going to last 2-3 months and then we would be back to normal. Unfortunately, as we've seen, it didn't, and it still is not completely normal. I think we're in a good spot now compared to a year ago. However, we're still trying to work on a lot of things. So a lot of things for my office, we had to close the office, we had to turn everything virtually, phone calls, and it was hard. My office had a lot of COVID scares in the beginning, and I remember a lot of people were just scared of COVID because it was known to be deadly. Now, of course, it could still be deadly, but there is a path towards recovery. I had COVID not that long ago, and it wasn't that bad to me. However, I still can't smell. So that is something that I still have to live with, unfortunately. And I know there's a lot more people out there that unfortunately are not maybe recovered fully to that level. So it's something that it doesn't discriminate. It can hit anyone of all ages. I think I consider myself really lucky that it didn't hit me as hard compared to others. But there's different resources that I know we're going to talk about later on that will help families get to where they need to be financially, and just make sure they keep their homes as well.
Thank you, Representative, for sharing that. I appreciate that. I'm curious, how long ago did you have COVID?
So I got it in March. So it was towards the end of March, unfortunately.
Okay. I presume before. And that's a good example of, because I've had a lot of people ask questions about the taste and smell, and how is that different from allergies or colds or flus when my nose is stuffy. And this, as you can see, you're fully recovered. Your nose is not, you don't have any sinus issue. It's just the sense is literally impaired. And that's really what the difference can be. Not for everybody, but I just think that that's everybody who gets COVID. It seems like a lot of times they have a unique story. I have a great aunt of mine who's very similar, is still recovering from smell and taste, as well as from blood clotting and things like that. Obviously, she got it in December before she would be able to be vaccinated. So it's unfortunate. But let's go into, I want to capture what you said there. There are things that are getting better, not just in terms of directly with, case counts are really, really low. We were in the bridge phase, 4.5, whatever you want to call that. Now we're in phase 5. Cases have really plummeted in Illinois. but we also have some additional things going on here that are good news. So speak a little bit about some victory bills that you've had that have passed to offer those help due to COVID-19, both businesses and individuals. Small businesses, especially restaurants, has been a common feature on this show with guests. I've had Bill Poss from the Luigi's in Aurora. I've also had Anna Santos Patello on in Schaumburg, Illinois. And I know that there's going to be, you won't get evicted for another month. I saw that on the news today. That's coming, from the federal level. But speak to a little bit about what's going on in Illinois for both businesses and individuals that still need help.
Of course. So like I said, COVID exposed a lot of things that needed to be done. And a lot of people, they had great bills prior COVID, but then it was really hard for them to pass them because a lot of people thought that it couldn't get done. That it wouldn't make sense. However, COVID happened, and then later on, those bills became relevant. Became like it did make sense. One of those bills was telehealth. Telehealth was a big component of it, that you're able to talk to a doctor just like we're doing right now, and just be able to talk to them about those issues, especially if you can't go to the doctor's office. So we expanded that. We made it more permanent now. And then notaries also, and whenever you needed something signed by a notary, it was really hard for that person to do so, especially if you couldn't go in person. So now there's a digital notary available as well. One of the biggest bills I think we have is housing. As we noticed, there's a lot of families that lost their jobs. Because they lost their jobs, they weren't able to pay for rent, they weren't able to pay for mortgage. So we were able to, like you said, extend the eviction notice from another month and a half, at least until August, I believe. Instead of having the governor do it every single month, now it's set, there's a set date until August, and then people are able to apply for rent assistance as well and mortgage assistance. So that was one of the first few things that we were able to do. Now we still do the rent assistance. So currently there is a program that people can apply to, tenants can apply to, landlords can apply to, where they can get money for their rent. And this is money that they don't have to pay back. It's a grant. It's free for them as long as they apply for it and they're eligible for it. Then they can receive this money, and it can be up to $5,000 to $15,000. So it's a great help as well. Other bills that we were able to focus on was just making sure that once again, healthcare is available to everybody. So we were able to expand Medicaid to 60 and above, I believe, so for undocumented individuals. And that's another big important thing. As we noticed, healthcare is extremely important. If you don't have healthcare, then it's going to be really hard to recover from not only COVID, but a lot of things. So that is one of the things we were able to do. One of the bills that I was able to sponsor as well relating to COVID was SB 265 that would allow LIHEAP. It's a assistance, energy assistance. So if you can't pay for heat in your house, there is a program called LIHEAP. Before, it was only available to seniors and disabled. However, now we're able to prioritize families that have children in their household under 6 years old, and also undocumented population. So those are big components of the bill that we were able to do. And I'm really happy that we were able to sponsor and get through. That would help a lot of families, hopefully in the next couple of weeks and months. And of course, the other bills that I do have that I was able to champion was menstrual hygiene products to allow women and just menstruators overall to have access to these menstrual hygiene products that are really crucial to public health for an individual. So one of the bills that I was able to do is allow menstrual hygiene products in all school bathrooms from 4th to 12th grade. And then the other bill is to add them through SNAP and WIC in the federal level, at least for statewide, but that would be pending federal approval.
Mm-hmm. there's a lot of good stuff in there. And one thing that I wanted to unpack is sort of that last thing, how health is health. And I think I've heard people talk about how COVID-19 sometimes, oftentimes more than not, it sort of highlights what health conditions somebody already has when they get it in terms of risk for severe disease. But I think that the pandemic has done the same thing on a large sort of macro level in terms of just looking at it retrospectively, not just for an individual in terms of the direct impact on getting sick and how severe you would get sick. But I think that the pandemic as a whole has sort of highlighted additional health needs that, maybe people were putting off, cancer screening, and now for a while they can't get it, even if they wanted to, things like, hygiene, things like that. There's been a lot of, people being hungry. That's only gotten worse during the pandemic. And I think that that's something that we need to look at as we are doing right now and figure out, how can we be ready for when something else, knock on wood, how something else comes along, because this has really been a challenge that we haven't faced, in any time recently. So building off of that, what are some current issues that are in top priority, COVID or not, that are in focus right now for the state of Illinois and for even your district specifically? Obviously, right now, things are looking pretty good. We are in phase 5. Daily cases have pretty much plummeted. Vaccine availability is open to everybody. And I think Illinois reached the 70% threshold, not necessarily for immunity in terms of fully vaccinated, but 70% at least have had one shot. So it's even more crucial now to get, in terms of all the data that I look at, it's even more crucial to get your second shot and wait the full 14 days before starting to resume higher risk activities, because specifically of the Delta variant, which sort of combines the best of what we used to consider the UK variant with a little bit of immune evasion from some of those other ones. And that's sort of crowded out all the other variants. That's going to be the main one here pretty soon. Not so much a threat for people fully vaccinated, but as we still get through that, the last, the people that haven't been vaccinated or are partially vaccinated can slow the progress, and certainly can in states that are, unlike Illinois, not going to meet the July 4th goal. So what do you think is next for Illinois in terms of how are we going to sort of lock in our COVID progress, and how are we going to move forward with some of these other things?
No, I think that's a really great question. I know there's a few items that are still need to be worked on, like the unemployment IDS. That's a big component of it. Our state agencies have been overworked, and there hasn't been a lot of people that are available to work on all these issues. So there's a lot of cases that have fallen behind. So making sure that we have the right individuals and leadership in those departments it's crucial to our growth and moving forward. So those are a few things that we need to focus on. However, with COVID, like you said, there's going to be several variants coming our way. As we've heard, there's a Delta variant, and there's still information that we don't know exactly. And we know it's not going to maybe affect as much to those that are vaccinated. However, there's still a lot of unclear messages, and at the same time, how long are we going to be in the situation of several variants coming our way until we can say, there's no more variants, we're going to be fine, and so on. We're not moving backwards. So it's something that, unfortunately, I wish I had more answers to. However, it's like COVID. We just have to see what happens and hopefully move towards that way of getting people vaccinated as much as possible, getting tested, and making sure that the individual goes through that quarantine process if they need to.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I know that one thing I can share from looking at the data, and I spent a lot of time talking to a nurse administrator whose specialty is in COVID-19. And the fact that we're now in a place where the need for booster shots are to be determined, and obviously there are a lot of people that think we'll need them with some of these variants, but it's still not like a for sure thing like it was. And it's not so much that even modifying the shot we have a lot of data on, especially the Pfizer, just because it's been out the longest, that maybe just getting another shot of that specific shot, or even just the 2 shots in and of itself is going to have such a strong, deep immune response, stimulating the lymph nodes and not just creating antibodies, but T cells, B cells, stimulating the lymph nodes to the point where, I remember when the 6-month data came out that it was still at 90+ percentile effective. And we had data from South Africa, which at that time there's variant there that was even potentially more immune evasive than the mutation on the Delta strain. The problem with the Delta is it combines it's like the best of, so to speak, to give it a metaphorical term, of more contagious and possibly evading immunity and possibly for severe disease. So we'll definitely have to be on the lookout for that. I think Illinois is looking really good right now. And Illinois was looking pretty good last summer in terms of, for having no vaccine, with the regulations that Governor Pritzker put in place and, the compliance, we were doing pretty well with case numbers. We didn't really have that summer surge, so to speak. It didn't start creeping up until the fall. So I'm hoping that we're going to have a really safe summer, and I'm hoping that COPING-20 will be able to continue to share positive news and updates as we create more episodes. But I want to take the time to really thank you, Representative Hernandez, for coming on the show. It is a small but growing show, and I know a lot of people are going to see this episode on Facebook and on YouTube. And if people want to get in touch with you, follow you, I know you're very active on your Facebook page, you're on LinkedIn as well. And I know on Facebook you share a lot of stories on your page. So if people want to get in touch with you, it's just Barbara Hernandez on Facebook, correct?
That is correct. And I'm also on Instagram and Twitter. They can find me there, or they can email me at repbarbarahernandez@gmail.com.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And I will hang around for a second. I will say goodbye to you properly. Everybody else, thank you so much for watching this episode. Please share it to your timeline, spread the word. And I am looking for additional guests in a wide array of industries. Anything that deals with how we move forward, how we stay as positive and as present as possible during COVID and post-COVID times. Thank you, everybody, and have a good day.